Here is the next of a couple of videos, 2 or 3 videos about texturing. This one is going to be covering very basic layered texturing, and it'll also be introducing the hypergraph, which is a very powerful tool in Maya. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a layered texture on this plane here, and I'm going to do the brick face on it, and then I'm also going to put on I'm going to layer on this graffiti graphic that I made in Photoshop. Notice that there is a transparency here, that I do not have a background, that there is just a graphic with a transparency. And I converted this into a TIFF. You can also use a PNG, but if you convert it into a TIFF or a PNG, just make sure that when you save it, you're going to save it as a TIFF file, and you're going to want to save it as a copy, and you're going to save, it'll say that, and you're going to make sure that you save transparency here. It's going to give you a little option here, and discard layer and save as copy, and I've already saved that. So what we're going to do here is I have a plane, just a poly plane here, with some, just a random amount of geometry here, and I'm going to press 6 to have shaded textured mode up here. And then, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my hypergraph, and we go into Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade, excuse me, the Hypershade window, and we're going to open up the Hypershade, and the Hypershade looks something like this. It's going to give you some options in here, and there's a workspace over here. And I'm going to build, instead of building my textures like I did in the previous demo, I'm going to build it in here in the work area. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Lambert, and this will create a Lambert node over here. And then I'm also going to scroll down a little bit here, and I'm going to find, where is it? It's about, there we go. It's layered texture, and I'm going to open up a layered texture in here as well, and we can also navigate around, make this a little smaller. I'm also going to navigate back up, and I am going to also open up, if I can find it here, there we go. I'm going to open up 2 files. So I've made 2 file nodes, and I can go and I can kind of arrange it here, and this is how I'm going to set up my shader network. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load up those texture images into the file here, and first thing I'm going to do is I go in, and if I double click on this file node, it'll bring up the attribute editors, and go to the little folder image file name, and I'm going to find the those files that I have here, and where is it? Here it is, and it is the bricks JPEG, and I want to rename that. It's a good idea to rename all of these nodes here, and then I'm going to go to the next file here, and I'm going to open up that graffiti TIFF that I just showed you that I created in Photoshop with the transparency. There we go. Okay, we can probably turn that off there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load this up. I'm going to load these up into my layered texture node. And I can also, I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to bring up these attributes, and this is the attribute editor for the layered texture, and you can call this whatever you want, something that makes sense. I'm going to call this wall. And over here this is the layer section here, and what I'm going to do is in here you can add, there we go, what did I do? I'm going to bring that back again. You can add as many layers or delete as many layers as you want here, and you can add your layers here. Now remember that the layers are going to be stacked from top to bottom, from left to right. So the farthest most left layer is the top layer. So I'm going to click on, wait a second here, open that up again. I'm going to middle mouse drag that graffiti file over here, and that goes into this file here. Then I can get rid of that one because I don't need it anymore. And I put the graffiti file there first. Then I'm going to go into here and I'm going to grab the brick. Oh, darn it, come on. And I'm going to grab the brick file, and I'm going to, maybe that's a little better. Let's do that one more time. I'm going to middle mouse drag and put the brick file into the layered texture editor here. So the first file here, which should be renamed graffiti, is going to be in the texture editor here on top, and the brick behind it. So, and as you see, when you do that, Maya automatically makes a connection from the layered texture node here, the layered texture node, and the two file materials that we have put on top of it. The next thing we want to do is we want to connect that to the material that's going to be placed on the object in Maya. So the same procedure, I just middle mouse drag it over on top of that Lambert, and it'll bring up a choice of things, and I want to go to color. And that just put the layered texture on top of that that material there that's going to go on to that plane that I made. So this is how your file network shader network should look. Getting all kind of tongue-tied here. Okay, so we can minimize that, and we can put that there. Oh, one more thing. I'm just gonna open up the hypergraph one more time, and you can also rename that Lambert. It's also a good idea to sometimes rename things so you know what they are. So let's just make that layered wall. There we go, and that is the name of the material. Okay, so now we have our plane here. I'm going to right mouse over that, scroll down and go to assign existing material, go to layered wall. Did that do it? No, not. And there we are. And there we have a brick wall with some graffiti on top of it. Very simple. Let's do a little render to see what that looks like. And there we go. Now also remember that in the hypershade, from the hypershade, you can choose all of your materials, and so I can, again, if I double click on the brick material, I can go into the attribute editor, and I can tile and position to a certain degree that. So now we have kind of a more scaled brick wall with like a label or an image on top of it. That basically is going to show you a very simple introduction to first of all the hypershade network. You can play around with that, and how to sort of mix and layer some textures if you decide to do something a little more complicated with your models. Thank you.